we had a great community producer. We called him our community liaison, who'd been going out there for like 35 years and knew everybody out there. And was like,
Perfect.
we have to talk to this person. We got to go to this house. We got to see the architecture of this place. This is this really crazy place in the meat rack where people go for orgies, whatever.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Duke's Download. I'm your host, James Duke Mason, and I am beyond thrilled to have an acclaimed actor, one of my personal favorite actors, who was in, I think, probably one of the best shows in the history of this golden age of television, Sense8, which I still so wish was on TV. But I think will go down as one of the great shows in the history of modern television. Brian J. Smith, who is with us today. So grateful to you for being here.
Gosh.
In addition to that, though, I mean, Stargate Universe, you were nominated for the Tony for the Glass Menagerie in 2013. So stage and screen, you're an incredibly acclaimed actor, one of the most, I would say, visible members of our community, an openly LGBTQ actor and filmmaker. But anyway, I wanted to say thank you for being here. It is such a thrill.
And recently married too. I just married my husband, Matt, who I've been with for gosh, I mean 4 years now. I think we got married in March.
So fantastic. Congratulations.
Checking off all the boxes.
Where did you guys get married?
City Hall.
In New York?
We haven't had we haven't had like a wedding party yet. We're gonna do that soon. But I was in Toronto pretty much like the whole last half of last year up until March of this year. And when I got home in March, I was like, honey, what are we waiting for? Like let's do this. Let's go get married and we'll figure out the wedding later. So we literally put on some nice pants and took our dog Pippa down to City Hall and got married.
What kind of dog is Pippa?
She's a Maltipoo, and she's just the best little thing. She's just asleep on the couch right now.
I mean, I know you're from Texas originally, right? But have you always been a New York gay, or a New Yorker, or New York's always been your place?
Yeah, I've always been I've been based in New York. I moved here in 2002 to go to start drama school and just kind of put down roots. And I guess I'm officially, even though I grew up in Texas, like I feel like I've been here. What is that? 20? I can't add 20. How many years is that? 20.
24.
I've been here for 24 years.
Unbelievable.
Now, so I think I'm officially.
Yeah.
For this, I better be.
Was that because stage was always something that you, like when you first got interested in the arts and in acting, was that a purposeful decision? Like you wanted to go to New York versus like LA because of the Broadway and stage component?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it was so funny at school. We were always like, oh, we're not going to do TV or film, when we graduate. We're going to tour the regionals and do Shakespeare and Chekhov and Ionesco our whole lives. You never think you're gonna like do anything commercial when you're in drama school. And here I am like doing sci-fi and cop shit and all that stuff.
True.
But yeah, it is the thing about New York that I've always loved is that you do have access to theater here. You can they're always doing play readings and it's definitely been the major draw to be here. Yeah.
Was not to focus too much on your orientation, but I mean, look, I'm 34. I've been out in LA for like 16 years now, and I remember early on, being in advocacy and all that here in LA, like there was always that question of, I mean, I personally knew a few different cases of actors who, I think some of them have come out since then, but who at the time were still very cagey about whether or not to be out in the industry. And I mean, was that something that was ever? I know you started in New York, so maybe it wasn't quite as much of a consideration of, oh, do I want to be super private about my personal life, or but was that ever something that crossed your mind, or did you decide not just on this, but in general, like I'm going to be authentic and true to myself from the get-go, and in every sense,
No,
or
I was a coward. I was a cagey queer coward in the closet for years. I mean, it was a different time, and I can't
yeah,
believe I'm saying this, and it's making me feel so very old. But like I graduated school in 2006, and
hmm
it was a very 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 different time. It
it
was
was.
not that it was like uh, you know, um, like setting off a nuclear bomb or something if you came out. It wasn't necessarily that. It was just more like there was a don't ask, don't tell
Mhm.
policy that felt safe, and it didn't quite feel safe to come out.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, I mean, gosh, do I wish I was like a trailblazer? Do I wish I was someone who was like just waving the rainbow flag like right when I got out and was just kind of out and proud from day one? Gosh, yeah, but that's easy to say, from hindsight and when I was in my 20s and just trying to like I was working at a bar. I was doing off Broadway theater. I couldn't pay rent. You're worried about those kinds of things, and whether or not anybody cares about your sexuality just doesn't even come into the mix,
Right.
really. So
It
I,
is
I didn't.
crazy though how we did see not to interrupt, my
No,
apologies.
no, no.
But just like it is, I sometimes think how crazy it is that it seems like there was like this massive jump where we went from like, very, very few examples of actors who were, booking gigs outside of, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but roles that were either very outwardly gay
Yep.
or and like either that was what you were doing or potentially nothing at all, or and then now we live in a world where it just seems like there's openly LGBTQ plus actors and roles everywhere. Like we kind of went. It's almost like we skipped the middle ground and went straight for like just like representation all over the place, which is
It's
kind
almost
of
like you
crazy.
have to be. It's almost like you're a little. It's a little suspect if you're not gay or bi or something. You're kind of like, oh, really? Are
That's
you
true.
sure?
That's
Like,
true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like you kind of have to come out of the closet as straight in a way if you're
Yeah.
if you're if you're an actor. I mean, I don't really mean that. I'm kidding,
Kind
but
of. I mean, it is crazy how, like, like one thing I wanted to talk to you about as part of the conversation about your new film is, um, I was on the board of Outfest for a few years, which is,
oh
a
yeah,
big LGBTQ film festival in LA. It's sort of defunct now. I mean, they still have like virtual screenings and stuff, but it's just crazy how like as much as I love independent film and LGBTQ independent film still matters a lot, but it is crazy how like even 10 years ago we lived in a totally different world where right before like Netflix became like with shows like yours became as massive as it is now, but like 10, 15 years ago you still really needed like film festival like gay film festivals, for a lot of gay content to even see the light of day. That was really the only platform that we had. But now we have so many different options. We have streaming, and we have. I mean, festivals still play a critical role, but Outfest existed in a very different world than what we have now.
totally. I mean, well, what's been interesting is like working on this film, and we're kind of going through the whole self-distribution process right now. I mean, it's been 4 years. I started work on this film 4 years ago. We finished filming it 2 years ago, and we've been in a sort of distribution process for 2 years. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But it is definitely interesting how the game has changed in terms of like queer content and I'm still trying to figure it out. I still don't know. Because like on one hand, there is all of this, kind of a hunger for this kind of stuff. But at the
Yeah.
same time too, like I can definitely say, like, from the inside out, you know, it's not, if we had gone out and made a documentary about a community of nudists, uh that were all sort of like straight, like, this thing would be on HBO like years ago, right? It's just something weird about, there is still a sort of fear, even from queer, gay, whatever, producers
Yeah.
and like content platforms. They're still very, very, very scared of anything that isn't like a franchise, anything that isn't tried and true, and anything that's like too gay.
No.
It's we. I think in the surface, a lot has changed, but like the bones, the structure of it, it hasn't.
Well, I wanted to ask you a lot about that. First of all, A House is Not a Disco, great, fantastic documentary about Fire Island, which I watched last night, and I want to dive into that for sure. But I mean, it is to your point. It's interesting how you've kind of experienced both ends, so to speak, of the industry, because you were on, even though it had a lot of sort of queer subtext and queer content, you were on Sense8, which was, yes, kind of, it was definitely artistic. It wasn't just purely commercial, but it did have a lot of sort of mainstream, like sci-fi action kind of elements to it.
Yeah.
But like when that became a massive success and you were part of that, was that what was that experience like for you as being part of that? Because I know you've done some big roles before, but that was kind of like a massive internationally cultural event, that
The
show.
funny thing, the funny thing about Sense8 is, even like while we were doing it, we were always considered to be like super, super weird and like niche. And it was also happening at this time when Netflix was, I mean, this was somewhat early in Netflix. And maybe we showed up in a bit of a transitionary period. Like, if Sense8 had started maybe 2 years earlier, we probably would have gone like four or seasons or longer. But I think that right when we started at Netflix was like right when they really went whole hog on the math,
Mhm.
right? The algorithm
Right.
aspect of streaming, and looking at pure numbers,
Mhm.
right? They, for a while, there was this place where you could go and people were doing weird stuff on that platform, and we were like the perfect example of this, where you could go and like it was experimental. It was like doing experimental theater. I mean, what Lana and Lily and what they made was so out of the box and so strange in a beautiful way.
Right.
It could never get made today. Not a chance. Because it just, the algorithm would like take one look at it and like throw up and reject it out of hand, right? But the people who found it, the people who came to the show, like really got very, very, very passionate about it. So
Mhm.
we never had like a big numbers, game behind us, but the people that loved the show
Yeah.
connected to it on a level I have never seen on anything certainly I've ever worked on. But there's a kind of passion and an ownership
Yep.
people feel about it that is really what makes Sense8 so uh, special.
It still has a ton of cultural resonance. I mean, not just within, not just because of its LGBTQ sort of queer, sensibilities, but I would say, I mean, it's one of those shows that, I mean, sincerely, like The Sopranos, and one of those shows that, I'm 20 years even from now, I'm sure will still be considered one of those shows that just like is a touchstone, and so what an incredible achievement on your part. But I would, how did you even decide to go into the filmmaking realm? Because I mean, acting at both stage and screen has been, from what I've can ascertain, that has been your focus for a while. But did you make a conscious decision that you wanted to go into the behind the camera part of the industry?
Yes. Yes. In a lot of ways, like I am the most like unlikely actor that has ever existed. I sometimes wonder what the hell I'm doing and how I got so lucky to have the opportunities that I've had. I in a lot of ways, it's like not a very natural thing for me. Um, I am much more someone who is, I want to know when we're on set, I'm like, whoa, what kind of camera are we using? Like, what kind of, whoa, what kind of lenses are these? Can I
Hmm.
go sit in the editing bay and watch you guys put this together? That's, I just was always a lot more curious about like the technical aspect of filmmaking.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Acting is such a strange thing because you show up and like, you're the last piece of the puzzle in a way. Like, everybody on set, in theory, knows more about the project than you do, and they have been with it longer than you have.
Yeah.
Every single person there, from hair and makeup to sound to production design, the directors certainly. I mean, you are there to kind of fill in this final, very important piece, but like the technical aspect of things is really where like the magic I think that
Hmm.
happens with film because I've seen and I've given very bad performances that have been that have been made not so bad
Yeah,
because
I know
of
what you mean. In the editing
really
room.
great editing and
Yeah.
really great camera work and like
Yeah.
really great lighting. I mean, I know I've been hung over before at work. I mean, back in, like my
Yeah.
early days
Yeah.
and had been saved by some really, really, really great cinematographers.
Yeah.
um,
Well, it's true. There are elements to filmmaking that people probably never, moviegoers or audience, folk don't even think about. It's so true that those elements can make or break a performance or a film. But how did you decide which, by the way, I totally concur with. I think it turned out brilliantly. But how did you decide making a film about Fire Island was something that you? I assume it took a lot of work to put this film together. I mean, it had to be have been a very conscious like this is something I'm going to devote myself to. You know.
there was a lot of like kismet involved. A really good friend of mine is Adam Klesch, who is in the documentary. He's sort of like our lead character when we're following around the Pines Party section of the film. And I'd always, he's an old friend of mine from Berlin, and I'd always talk to him about, oh, I'd love to make something one day, but I just don't know what, and I don't know if anyone's going to take me seriously. I'm that actor, on some show, and like, who's gonna like ever let me get behind the wheel and drive? And one day he was like, because he was working on the Pines Party, he was like, "Hey, you want to make something? Let's do it. Let's make a documentary about the Pines Party. Let's make a film about what it's like to put this thing up. We'll just do it on our iPhones. We'll do it, or we'll rent black magic cameras, or we'll do, what, we'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, great. I'm going to commit to this. I started asking around and got, really great people involved, like Eric Schleicher, our cinematographer on this film, who is like the MVP star of this whole thing. I mean, the look and the feel
It's
and the
totally,
color of
totally.
it is like not a documentary. And that's what he wanted. He was like, I will do this, but I do not want to make a documentary that looks like a documentary.
Well,
And if you're going to do a documentary about Fire Island Pines, I do not want it to look or feel like the kind of movie people expect
mhm.
to see about Fire Island Pines. I want it to
Oh, it's
feel true.
gorgeous. I mean, like that one sequence at the house party when the drag queen is performing, and I don't know if it was Adam or if it was, but one of the guys dives in the pool, and I mean, you really felt like you were there, and like it really captured Yeah, I mentioned before we started recording, I had only had one night on Fire Island, and I feel like considering I only had one day and one night, I packed as much as I could into one experience. It really was like one of the
So
most
to speak.
memorable nights of my life. But it is such a special place, and it's really hard to convey that. Even with all the movies I'd seen, like Normal Heart, which shot I think your documentary is really the only thing I've ever seen that really makes can like you without having ever even been there. I feel like someone could really understand what it's like. You
Well,
know,
the only reason that might be, possible is because we had an incredible sense of support from the community. I think that they saw what we were doing and were like, the place has like a reputation, and I think that they're very wary, like they're very aware of that reputation, and kind of like, like why does the world see us this way? Like there's so much more to us than just this like, super exclusive, racist,
right?
classist, place, right? They really wanted to kind of set the story straight, but at the same time they still had critiques of the place. They still had very honest things to say about their own experiences there. And I think because they got a sense that me and the team, that we were coming in and we were not trying to exploit them. We were, for whatever reason, they trusted us. And
Do you
we
go
got,
there a lot? Was that big part of your coming of age? And
I had, yeah, I mean, I started going, oh gosh, when did I first go? I mean, it was actually it was around the time that Sense8 came out. Um, and that was strange to sort of be out there when that happened.
I can imagine.
Especially someone who's like is intensely agoraphobic as I am. It was very uh,
Unsettling.
it
I can
was
imagine in
weird.
some ways. Yeah.
But so the reason why, I think we really got that "you are here" feeling is because people invited us in. They were okay being filmed. They were okay and so eloquent in talking about the place. We had a great, like a community producer. We called him our community liaison, Joe Conforti, who'd been going out there for like 35 years and knew everybody out there. And was like,
Right.
we hate to talk to this person. We got to go see. We got to go to this house. We got to see the architecture of this place. This is this really crazy place in the meat rack where people go for orgies, whatever. I mean, like
Yeah.
he knew everything and took us everywhere, and sort of he was like the key to the city, and really a huge part of his contribution to this film was allowing us that kind of access, which we were very, very, very fortunate to have.
Mhm. When did you shoot? Was it 2022 or 2023?
It was
2022.
2022. I believe we started in March. We went out for our first sort of exploratory shoot in March of 2022. A lot of that footage is in the film. And then I had to go away and I was doing a mini series in Canada. I was gone for maybe like 3 or 4 months and then came back immediately. We went right back out there. And we would go out there in these like, one, maybe 1.5, sometimes maybe, did we go for 2 week shooting trips? Throughout the course of a whole year, so that we got a taste of what it's like out there in the spring, what it's like out there like in the dead of hot, humid, crazy summer, and then in the
Mhm.
fall, and then in the winter. And we shot for over a year.
There
And
were so many moments that, like, little things, little tiny details that like resonated with me. Like, not to, I don't want to give it away for those who
please,
haven't seen it yet, but like that one sequence when you were interviewing the yoga teacher, the 22-year-old, and and like the guy that was sitting there with him, and the way they were like looking at each other and talking, and like you just felt this, like this vibe and this palpable, like knowing what, like, and then the feeling of knowing it's summer, and like it's just it like you can, there are certain documentaries and films where you just feel the vibes coming through the, and it was just and little tiny things, and I think that just goes to show what a impeccably crafted film it is, because when you can just feel the vibes coming through the screen. and the sense of I guess he had just arrived there and like was just decided, hey, I'm just going to stay here for the whole summer and wake up early, teach yoga lessons on the beach, and
Yeah.
like, but just little things like that. I feel like not only is it entertaining for and a great visual experience for those watching, but I feel like you're also doing a service of capturing a moment in time. I feel like going back to Outfest and how Outfest, one of their big things was preserving LGBTQ history. I feel like you really captured a snapshot in time for future, the 10 or 20, 30, 40 years from now. It's kind of it's a time capsule too.
That's a perfect way of putting it. In a way, I think that is sort of like our listen. We want people to watch the film now, um, but
Right, of course.
it,
Right.
when we
You can
were,
worry about future generations
of course,
later, but yeah, I know what
like
you mean.
like 20, 30 years from now, isn't going to help me, pay the bills.
I know what you
How
mean. No.
But it is this sort of thing about the movie that when we were researching it, we went back and found a lot of like archival stuff out
Yeah.
there, and there was,
I love
and
the
I,
Beach 79 stuff. It was so cool. And
yeah,
it was amazing.
and we
Yeah.
also used actual footage from there's a pornography, a porn that was shot out there. That was very famous called Boys in the Sand. It was like the first sort of like gorgeously filmed cinematic gay porn. And we were able to license some of that material because it was this pristine time capsule of what that place looked like back in the 1970s
Yeah.
before AIDS hit.
Right.
And so in a way, like it's a time capsule inside of a time capsule inside of a time capsule. And
Right.
I do hope that one day, like in, 20, 50, 60, whatever, people are going to like look back on this and go, man, that's what it was like, not just to be a Fire Island, but like, wow,
Right.
that's what they were worried about when
Mhm.
that's what the gays were worried about, back
Mhm.
in the 2020s, right?
Um,
It was the summer of monkeypox. It was the
Right.
summer of
Right.
I forget the name of the Supreme Court decision, but where they everyone,
Dobbs,
yes, yeah, the Dobbs decision
the
came.
abortion decision. Yeah.
Yes, and everyone out there was like the topic of conversation, which we got in the film, was like, oh my God, like, are they coming for gay marriage
Yeah.
next? Like, is this what's going on? And like now, here we are, 4 years later, and like
Mhm.
there are people in the right wing that are
Yeah.
openly saying, yeah, we don't think gays should be able to get married. We're going to see what we
Right.
can do about it. They have a Supreme Court that would be open to it,
Yep.
and here we are. I mean, so things could be very different for people 20 years from now,
Yeah.
and yeah, it is definitely a time capsule.
I
That's
thought it
that's
was really cool that South by Southwest too. That's where you had your premiere, right? Probably probably the most mainstream film festival in the United States. I mean, South by Southwest, arguably, I think is no offense to Sundance or whatever, but I feel like South by Southwest is at like the cultural center of the country right now.
it's kind of funky. Yeah, like South by
Yeah,
Southwest, it's got this sort of, it's Austin, so yeah, it does have this.
exactly.
It's not so. It, it is very corporate. I mean, like you're there when you're in it, you're kind of like, oh my God. I mean, the sponsorships and the
Right.
keep the
Yeah,
tax people,
exactly.
blah, 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 like, but it felt more like a party, than like we were out there pitching the film to get bought or anything like that. Like you could really go and have a good time and let your hair down and connect with audiences.
So do you have the exact details yet on the release date or when it's going to be released?
Yeah. So the official release date is going to be July the 2nd, which hopefully, I think when this comes out is going to be like the next day or however. I do believe starting on July the 1st, we're going to have our site up on Gather, and you can go and you can pre-order the film it's for rent. And we're going to do that for a while and see how that goes. And this whole summer we're just going to do a ton of screenings. Gather is great like that, great for that kind of stuff because they let you do ticket sales. So we're going to just get the word out about this thing. You know, it's the thing we learned is that the industry is not going to it's just not going to be there for this movie, right? We have to do this ourselves, and it's sort of incumbent on us to make sure that the word gets out there. So just please, like anyone watching this, go download it, rent it, and tell your friends about it, because that's how this thing is going to fly. I am going out to LA in August, at the end of August, I believe, for a Tori Amos concert. So, we have a little bit of time to prepare. Maybe, when I'm out there, we might do see if we can, work out some kind of a screening or something. So I'll definitely keep you in the mix. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, so much for joining me for my interview with Brian J. Smith. He's a great guy, a talented actor, great filmmaker. I hope you'll all go check out his new documentary, A House Is Not a Disco. And please like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at questions@dukesdownload.com. See you next week. Thank you for joining me today on Duke's Download. This podcast is part of Pride House Media, hosted by me, Duke Mason, and produced and edited by Josh Rosenzweig. Original music composed by Nell Balaban. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And while you're there, leave us a rating and review. It really helps others to discover the show. I'd love to stay connected with you, so join the conversation by following me at James Duke Mason on Instagram and X, or by emailing me at questions@dukesdownload.com.